So we've talked a lot about theory and a lot about, the touchy-feely side of editing, but how do we actually do it, right? When it comes down to it, wow, this should sound like a dope rhyme that I just made up. I should be, I should be recording that, putting it down in the studio. But when we get down to it, how do we do it with editing? And in today's world, we do what's called nonlinear editing. And it's kind of a confusing term because in the end, all films are linear. Linear meaning like a line. It goes from one point to the next point to the next point to the next point. It's not radial. It's not all over the place. It's linear. It goes from start to finish, and it doesn't deviate into a bunch of paths. Stuff that does this, branching and omnidirectional stuff, that's more like video games. But films are linear and go from start to finish. So what is nonlinear about nonlinear editing? And it's about the method by which you are able to construct and rearrange the individual pieces. Back in the days of film, you had to cut things linearly. And actually, in the early days of video, you had to do things linear too, before they came up with digital editing. So the thing about nonlinear editing is that it has two parts to it. Anytime that you do an edit, you have your media, which is your actual audio and video. So I'm going to represent that with a film strip here. So these are the pictures and sounds that make up your story. So this is an awesome love story, and it's going to have two people and a heart. Okay, so the actual pictures and sound that you've shot and then gotten into the computer are your media. And then you've got something that is kind of confusing by its name, and it sounds very technical and computery, so I'm going to represent it with a bunch of binary code here. This is the binary code for this is something fake. And this is called metadata. And that sounds like another Scrabble word, kind of like our juxtaposition term before. But metadata isn't just a bunch of ones and zeros. Metadata is actually, when you get down to it, some of the most important information that you use in editing. So what is it? Well, it's things like, how to erase quickly would be nicely if that's what it was. Now, what it is things like the name of the clip, the location, so like actually where is that file on the computer, the duration of the clip, is it 5 seconds, is it 10 seconds, is it 3 hours, and then there's things like in and out points. So if it's a big long clip, but you're only using a few seconds of it, it tells you, where in time does it start and where in time does it stop, even if it extends beyond those of the whole clip. You say, oh, we're only using this part of the clip from here to here, so you have in and out points. So metadata is a lot of things, and it's even more than that. Metadata is the entire process of any decisions that you make. So metadata is info and decisions. And the best way to describe this is that in editing, you have both a project file, and the project file contains all of your metadata. So any sequences that you put together, any kind of mixes that you make, all the project information is just about how it's arranged. And then you've got your media files, which live somewhere else, and those are your actual video clips. So why do we do this? Back in the days of film, your media and your metadata were combined. So your actual film strip was both your medium, because the pictures were on it, and then we would actually physically splice those. My awesome picture of scissors. You'd physically cut those up and rearrange them to make the new video. So, or the no, sorry, the new story using the existing clips of film. And so that's what's called destructive editing. You had to actually destroy the negative, or actually the print. Now, most people don't edit negatives because it would look really weird. You'd have to destroy that in order to make your edit, because your metadata, your decisions about how it goes together, the sequence of the shots, is physically tied to the medium, to the actual film strip. So that wasn't fun, because it ended up taking an awful lot of time, and you had to make a whole bunch of copies of the film, and anytime you changed your mind, it was kind of a big deal to have to go and undo that. You'd have to go print new film and actually cut it up and re-splice the stuff together. And it got even worse in video, because in video you couldn't do that. So if you made a cut and decided that shot 1 was going to go here, and then shot 3 was going to go here, and then shot 2 was going to go here, if you wanted to change shots 1 and 2, if that was on film, you could just, cut those off and rearrange them. But with video, you actually have to go back and start all the way back here, and anything past it has to be redone. So you have to relay down all of this stuff, because it's linear editing. Anything that you change in the timeline, you have to go all the way and redo everything after that. And that was not an awful lot of fun. So the beauty of our non-linear editing system is that we separate those two things out. So we've got our media safely separated out from all of our metadata. So we can change this stuff, the metadata. We can change the order of the shots, the duration of the shots, the layering and effects and color correction, and all the stuff that we're going to do ultimately to and with this media, with the media files. All of this stuff lives separately, which means it's very quick and easy to change our minds when it comes to this. It also means that these are basically text files. All this is a set of instructions about what to do with this. So if you know anything about data files, then you know that the media files themselves, the video itself, is pretty big, right? So you've got gigs of media files. It's huge individual chunks. Your project files are just going to be, probably at most a few megs. And they're going to be, little tiny files. And as you create more of them, because you make, revision 1 and revision 2 and revision 3, they're very small, and that makes them portable, right? You can do this metadata editing, which is all the project work that we're going to be doing in Final Cut Pro. All of that can easily fit on, a thumb drive, or, you could email it to yourself or something like that. The actual media itself, the files that have the video in it, is not as easily portable. It's a very large file. You're not going to be emailing your video files to anybody, but you can easily back up your project files and all the stuff that is the product of doing the work of editing. So the metadata is equivalent to the actual work, because the media files, that work has already been done. The media files here, this is the stuff that was done in the production phase by the production team when you've gone out and shot it. So the editor's work is the metadata. Now, if that makes sense to you, then I have another proposition. The beautiful thing about this is that it because it's very cheap and simple and fast to rearrange things, then you can experiment, right? Back when it was film and you had to cut it up and repaste it together, or video and you had to start anywhere else, making that same change that we were talking about before of shot 1, 3, And 2, it's as simple as copying the original sequence that goes 1, 3, 2. So we've duplicated it, and we've said 2, 3, 1 is our new sequence, and all we had to do was drag these clips around, and then we can watch it in pretty much real time. So there's no destruction of this original. That one still can stay in pristine quality, so if we don't like 2, 3, 1, then we can go back to 1, 3, 2. And if we do like it, then we can continue working off of the new copy without any kind of loss. Back when you were working with video, every time you made a new copy, the quality got crappier and crappier. But there's no actually messing with the media files. The media files are just the same quality, the exact same imagery, no loss of fidelity at all. And we're able to see this. So not only is it a very fast way to preview, so I wonder how this would look if I change these scenes around. There's no downside to that. If you were doing that on film, it'd be like, oh man, once I cut that up, if I don't like it, it's going to be a huge pain to go back. There's no undo button on film or on linear video. But if you don't like this second sequence in the nonlinear editor, no bother, you just go back and start working with that file again from before. So this is a very good way to promote an experiential, sort of a experimental way of looking at editing, and you should definitely do that whenever you have the opportunity, because it's one of the powers. There's a lot of drawbacks to working with digital video, but if you want to take advantage of the real strengths of the medium, you want to try to experiment as much as you can, especially as you're learning. It's very, I don't know, it's very educational. It's very interesting to see what alternate edits look like and what they do to change it. Because again, going back to the idea of the juxtaposition and the vast way that you can change a person's interpretation of your images based on what order they go in, it's a very powerful tool to just kind of play around. You can switch the order of the scenes and try some different things and do some effects and see what that does, and there's really no penalty in terms of work and having to go back and fix things, as long as you do your project management right. And I'll go over that with you guys in the future. So yeah, the other thing, like I said, there are some advantages of experimentation and ease of use with nonlinear editing, but there's also a drawback. Back in the days of video, linear video and film, you had to go through this process of actually sitting down, taking the time to watch all of your footage. You had to see what you had because you had to become intimately familiar with it in order to find all the pieces that you needed, and you couldn't watch them at super high speed. At best you could maybe watch them at double speed, but for the most part, a huge part of an editor's job was to actually watch all of the material that came in off the set. And then that made you very well informed to make those decisions about how to rearrange it and make the best movie possible, like we said. So if you don't know what you've got, if you haven't watched it, then it makes it very difficult. Informedia. This is a stream of conscious. Informedia is gonna be my new marketing. This is what happens when I write and talk at the same time. We don't really need that. Let's just say informed is a good enough word on its own, and we'll skip that last part. And it's just got a little happy face on the end of it. So now we look professional again, and I totally have the trust of the audience once more. So you have to watch it, you have to be informed about what you've got. And with film, you had to do that, and with video, you pretty much had to do that. But with digital technology, you kind of don't have to. You can shoot and shoot and shoot, and you can put all this stuff in the computer without watching it, and you can jump right to any particular frame that you want to find and jump straight ahead and skip over all the individual takes, and kind of guess at what you think is best without ever having to put in the time to look at the footage. And certainly I've been guilty of this in my professional life, because so often the emphasis is on get it done faster, get it done faster, get it done faster. So, just take your best guess and don't spend a lot of time actually watching the footage. And this is bad for the craft because it doesn't make you familiar. You're not necessarily making the decisions with all of the correct information. You may be choosing individual performances that aren't as good as others. So what I want to challenge you to do is you have to develop this. It's instead of being instilled on you as a limitation of the medium. You know, you had to do this when it was film, but now with video, you're going to have discipline to sort of make yourself watch your footage. And this is one of the biggest challenges that editors face today, because they can do things quickly. People expect them to do them much more quickly, but you kind of have to push back and say, you know, look, in order to do this right, I have to take the time to look at all the footage so that I can actually make the best movie out of what we've got. So don't push me, man. You know, that's always the best tone to take with your brother. No, don't do that. So yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges of being an editor today. So, what is the process of editing with nonlinear editing? Well, it's good that you asked, and I'm going to go over that in the next video in its entirety.